Hi, everybody, and welcome to the 3 C's of coaching. Connection leads to retention. I appreciate so much being able to be here with you today, and hopefully I can share some ideas and some examples and share some of my story to let you know how I was able to connect with the team that I had the opportunity to lead and led to some pretty significant retention. So I'm hopeful and excited to be here. So welcome. I'm Amy Williams with Amy Williams Academy. And through Amy Williams Academy, I'm able to work with schools and other organizations to coach leadership, coach teachers, do observations in classrooms and in staff meetings sometimes, and give feedback on how to become the best person possible in the lives of the people that you serve, whether those people that you serve are tiny and short and 3 years old, or if they're grown adults, right? So I'm excited to be here. My background is as a dance movement therapist and expressive arts therapist. I've been in leadership positions and counseling roles in schools and organizations for my career. So happy to be here and happy to share my experience with you today. Okay, so let's get started. I want you to pause and think about your favorite boss. Think about a person that comes to mind when you think about strong leadership, when you think about, wow, that was a really great experience. I felt listened to, I felt heard, I felt like I was connected to purposeful work, I was making a difference in the world. And who is that person that comes to mind? So you got that person in mind? All right, hold that there and think about, what makes that person so great? What made that experience really wonderful, right? I have a person that comes to mind. Her name is Mary, and we worked together for a very long time in leadership at the Portland Montessori School. And she comes to mind because she led in a very particular way. She first led with compassion. She role modeled the work ethic and the vibe that connected with me, the kind of work ethic I wanted to have as well. I felt seen and I felt valued by her. I felt clearly communicated with. I felt like she cared about me, right? She wasn't my therapist, but she knew when my dog was sick, or she knew that I loved gardening and she knew that I worked hard. So I felt like she appreciated the work that I did, right? I had freedom and was allowed to make mistakes. The idea of friendliness with error is really important. Being friendly with error. Yeah, so let's just hold on to that, because often, and you know this, and I know this, we all know this, that in that struggle, and when we make a mistake and we get ourselves back up again, in that getting back up again, we realize that we are resilient, and we realize that, ooh, I could do hard things, right? So being friendly with error was a quality that Mary had as my boss and as my leader that I really mostly connected with, right? Another thing is she reminded me of the purpose of my work, why I was doing the work that I was doing in the first place. What difference did it make in the world? And how was that in line with the vision and the mission of the school itself, right? So that's my story. So if you want to pause this and think about that person and write that person's name down, and if that person is still around or you could still connect with them, reach out. Let them know, hey, I was taking this class and I was thinking about you, and I want to say thank you, right? Okay, so you've got that person in mind, right? And um, we're trying to show up to be the best person possible in the people that we serve. And yet, why people leave? So why do they leave? A few reasons that people leave their job are this. There are many, but here are some of the top ones. One of the top ones is the difficult relationship with their direct supervisor, with their boss. The next one is not feeling seen or heard or noticed or validated, right? And another one is there's a disconnection between what I find is purposeful work and meaningful work and the work that I really do. What difference am I making in the first place, right? These are some of the reasons and some of the top reasons that people leave. So today we're going to talk about how we can address that and help the people that we serve really stick around. So what can you even do? Some of those, you can't, some of the things you can't control and can't figure out, but some of the things you can. So what can you do? Let's talk about those today. Okay, so we want to retain people who are excited to be there, happy to be there, who are sharing their best work with you as much as they can day to day to day, right? So let's look at some of the components of retention in the first place. So, number one, we want to attract the people who dig what we're doing. What is your organization doing? What is your program? What does it stand for? What's the mission? What's the vision of your organization? And is that a fit to the people who are coming to work alongside you? Right. So, from the point of your website, when people take a look at that, can they get a sense of what it is that you're about? What do you do? And do I want to do that too? Or is it an excitement that begins to bubble up when people begin to come to you and want to fill that position that you have open? So when you think about attraction, how are you attracting the people who have a natural fit? Are you clear what it is that your organization or your program's about? And when you have that conversation with people coming in or are at a place where you want to reinvigorate the people who are working alongside you already, what are you about? That would be a really interesting question to ask. What is our program? What do we want to be known for? Right? How does my work directly impact and support the greater vision and the greater mission of our program? Now, the next piece is engagement, right? So we've attracted people who want to be there, who are excited about what it is that we do. They have the skills and the temperament to support what it is that you're doing. So next, how do you engage them, right? Remember, one of the reasons that people leave was when they don't feel noticed or valued or seen, right? So engagement, giving voice and autonomy to the people that you support and that work alongside you is really important. Where are the places where you engage, where you give voice, where you give autonomy, right? Give space and freedom to make mistakes. And then the next piece is training, value, growth. This is a place where you really want to invest. When you know your people and you're keeping in constant connection and communication with them and are collaborating with them to figure out where is it that you want to grow, what are you interested in, where do you feel from self-observation and self-reflection, where do I want to know more, what do I want to know more about, and how do I get that? Is it a mentorship? Is it a training that I go to? Is it something that I read? Is it a coaching relationship that they establish with you, right? So training is an important piece of keeping people there. Is there a place for me to grow? Is there a place for me to go beyond this one position that I'm in now? What are the possibilities, right? Okay, and the next one is leadership. Okay, that's big. So we're going to talk about that for like the rest of the time we're here today. So leadership is big, and I made the word leadership even bigger to drive that point home. Because there are elements of our own leadership style. There are elements that of our own style that can trip us up. What are the ways that you might inadvertently sabotage your own leadership? So as we're thinking about and talking today, write down some notes of, this is a place where I want to grow. I want to learn and I want to try and I want to practice doing this piece better than I did yesterday. Okay. So let's step in. So there are a few things that are like a 1, 2, 3. So that I want to let you know here at the beginning. Something that you could do right away, right? First, it takes some self-observation and some noticing of what do I do already? How does that come across? Is it what I want to come across? And do I want to do it differently? Right? So from that self-observation comes that information that you can decide, do I want to do it the same or do I want to do it differently? Right? So when you role model what it is that you want to see in the people that you work alongside, they're going to be more successful because they see in you what it is that you expect and that you hope for them. Remember Mary and her example and her role modeling of the work ethic, right? Those are lessons that I'll have forever and ever, right? So I saw in action. She didn't just tell me, but she showed me what that was about. She showed me by example what it means to make a mistake and to own up to it and say, pick yourself up again and go, that was hard. I'm going to do it again differently next time, right? So that sense of vulnerability, right? So consider that our people that we work with, they don't want just words, because though that's easy, that's so easy, right? But show me. I don't want just words. If that's all you have from me, you better go. That's from F. Scott Fitzgerald. So just think about, if words are all that I have, is it time for me to do something different? And how can I show and role model what I expect from the people that I work with? Okay, number 2 is build that emo account, right? So emo here is not emo, but it is emotional. Build that emotional account, right? And I don't mean like the money account, but money helps too, right? But build that emotional bank account. How often do you connect with people in a way that's emotional and vulnerable, right? So the more you're able to connect with people in ways that are maybe lighthearted or ways that are intended to be emotionally connected. I heard you went to the beach this weekend. How was it? Oh, tell me about such and such. So in those moments in between, you build that emotional connection that lets them know that you care about them, right? You're not their therapist, but as a supervisor, as a boss, as a leader, you got to let them know that you care about them. That helps cushion when you have to have a conversation that might be a little more difficult, right? When you have to give feedback that might be hard to share and might be hard to hear, you've already got some cushion in your emotional account, if you will, so that when you make that withdrawal, which is one way to look at hard conversations, you've got a cushion, right? And you've already established a relationship that, what, they really care about me. So it's out of respect they have for me that they're letting me know that they noticed this, they observed this, and I can enter into a relationship or a collaboration because I trust this person and this person trusts me, right? So number 2, build that emotional bank account. One way that we can get at this is number 3, and it's connecting at neutral times. And you guys, I completely stole this from the work that I do with children because it impacts adult relationships as well. And it's the idea to make connections during neutral times. So, for example, with children, they have behaviors that you're like, yes, more of that, please. More sharing, more talking kindly, more helping your friends up, more putting your things away, more of that, please. Okay, those are behaviors that are over here. And then there are other behaviors that are not so great. And we might think, no, thank you. I won't let you bite your friend. I won't let you hit. The behaviors that we want to see less of are over here. All right. So then there are behaviors that are in the middle. So those are behaviors that we call neutral, times that are neutral, right? So the in-between times, maybe they're putting something away and they're moving to another part of the classroom, or they've finished something and they're deciding what to do next, right? So it's not necessarily behaviors that please us or that bring us despair, but it's the behaviors that are in the middle. And I've noticed in leading adults that we see those behaviors as well. We see the yes, please, more of that behavior, and we see the no, thank you behaviors as well. So consider, where are the neutral times? What does that look like? Maybe you're passing each other in the hallway, or maybe a meeting is just finished, or a meeting is about to begin, or there's a pause, right? So consider, where are all those neutral times? And give yourself a day or two or three to just notice them, right? Maybe even write them down if that's helpful for you. Where are all those neutral times? And those neutral times are powerful and important because it is the connection during those times that really have a great impact, right? So, Toni Morrison is here because she has a beautiful quote that goes something like this. Do your eyes light up when they enter the room? Your child or anybody else's child, that's what they're looking for. So, take out child and put in colleague or another person, another adult. And do your eyes light up, right? And you don't have to be all jazz handsy about it because that could get weird. But notice when they enter the room, notice them during that neutral time. And it might be eye contact or a chin up or a smile is kind of a universal, I see you and I'm happy that you're here. That kind of connection. And when we can connect with the people that we work alongside more and more and more and more, we deepen that relationship, make that a stronger relationship. And they believe that they're seen and that they're noticed and that they're valued. And that's what we all want, right? And that leads to, what you give attention to is going to continue. So that what you give emotional attention to is going to continue, right? So think about, do I only have conversations with the people that I lead when things are going bad or when things are going great and I avoid those others, right? Each of us are going to have a different style in this way. So think about, where do I give emotional attention? Where do I give my my focus, right? In a way that is intentional, right? Where do yes, I have to have a hard conversation and I'm going to give emotional attention to that because it's growing from a place of respect. I see this, here's a place that we could do better. Let's figure out how we can do it together, right? No shame, no blame, but you're watering the plant, so to speak, right? You're giving the emotional attention to so that the behavior of growth and friendliness with error and deciding to do something a little different or deciding to do something the same, right? So consider, where do you give emotional connection or emotional attention throughout the day, throughout the week? Also, notice, have I given connection? Have I had connection with every person on my team? Or, oh, that person, I haven't talked to them in a week. Think about that. Notice that. Where do you give your emotional attention? And is it equitable? Okay, now here's the person that I found a year or two ago on Instagram, actually, and she shared a bit about some soft skills of leadership that just that shifted the way that I thought about leadership, and I wanted to absolutely share this with you. Let's see, if you want to find and follow her, R. Yvonne Benson Idahosa, you could reach out to me and I can send you a link to connect and find her and listen to more and more of what she has to say about leadership. But the bit I want to share with you today is some 6 soft skills of leadership. That's hard to say. So let's take a look at them and consider, do I have these skills? Is there a place for me to grow in this area? Okay, so here we are. So number 1 is humility. And humility, she shares, is the freedom from pride or arrogance. It's the ability to understand that your strong sense of identity defines but does not inflate your relevance. Okay, number 2, confidence. And confidence is self-trust, right? It's the belief in your own power, trustworthiness, and reliability. It is to be full of conviction about who you are without being intimidated by the strengths of others. Next is self-awareness. So self-awareness is the ability to see yourself clearly and objectively through sober reflection and introspection. It's the ability to tune into your own feelings, your own thoughts, your own actions. It's emotional intelligence. Okay, number 5 is compassion. Compassion is a mutual connection with the pain and suffering of those that you lead. It's the willingness to enter in, to suffer with, and to sacrifice for. Next, number 6 is discernment. And discernment is the ability to judge well, to be clear about what it is that you see, to be honest about what it is that you see, and to be mindful if we are seeing a story that we've made up for ourselves, right? Little tip of the hat to Brene Brown there too. Is the story that you've made up, is it true or is it fiction? When we know little bits, but we don't know the full story, our human tendency is to insert bits to make it make sense, to make it make sense to what our own experience has been thus far. And sometimes that can trip us up. So the leadership skill of discernment, of being able to clearly take a look and examine and figure out, is this true? Am I being honest? Is this an honest reflection of what it is that I see, what it is that I notice, what it is that I'm thinking about going forward? Okay, so there's that, the 6 soft skills. So, you've got your soft skills, you've done the connection during neutral times, you've got your emotional bank account, it's all full. Okay, I've role modeled, embodied the soft skills. So, okay, how do I keep the people, right? I feel like I'm showing up as a pretty solid leader. What else can I do? How do I keep the people who are doing incredible work, right? I can tell you, it's not coffee, it's not pizza. Although coffee and pizza is nice, but it's not the whole thing, right? So let's talk about that a little bit. So we're moving into talk about the coaching relationship, because this whole class is the 3 C's of coaching. I know you were waiting on them. So let's talk about what is the coaching relationship. And you'll see I have relationship underlined, because that's really what we're talking about here. So when you're entering into a relationship, a coaching relationship with people that you work with, that you lead, that you work alongside, there are some ideas to consider, right? So the first one is the idea of a reflective practice model. Many of you may have heard about that already, and maybe you haven't. So for those of you who haven't heard about that, I'll let you know, like, what is it? What is reflective practice? So in reflective practice, we engage in a continuous cycle of self-observation, self-reflection, and self-evaluation to be able to understand our actions and understand the responses or reactions of others, right? So that's, in a nutshell, that's the reflective practice model, the self-observation, self-reflection, and self-evaluation, followed by change or continuing on if it's working well, right? So if you take a look at the other side, it says self-reflection versus correction. Now, here's a time that I challenge all of you and myself, because it's important to continue to ask myself these questions as well. As a leader, how am I doing, right? Am I tapping into those soft skills that we talked about earlier? What's the emotional bank account? Have I connected during neutral times? What am I role modeling, right? So that's the self-reflection versus a correction approach, right? So if you find yourself in a coaching relationship and you've done some self-reflection and you're noticing, the only thing I'm saying is what to do differently or what is going not well. Fix this. That was a mistake, right? So the subtleties of the way that we communicate that can come across in a way that's more corrective in nature or that invites self-reflection. And I propose that we do more encouraging and an invitation to self-reflection for ourselves and the people that we lead. So with that in mind, let's talk about, okay, there's a coach and there's a learner in a coaching relationship. So what is the role of the coach to begin with? Okay, so let's look at that. So the role of the coach is to provide supportive and encouraging environment so that the learner and the coach can jointly reflect on what is happening now. What is our current practice, and what is our current purpose? What do we want to do the same? What do we want to do differently? What's working? Don't fix that because it ain't broke. And what can we adjust? Where can we make shifts, right? So that's one of the roles of the coach. Now, another role of the coach is to offer clear, respectful feedback when new skills and competencies are applied. When you're trying something new, okay, give some feedback. We're trying something new. This is a new skill. How's it going? How's it feel? Here's what I noticed, right? So you're giving respectful, clear feedback when our people are trying something new, and you try to problem solve the challenging situations. I'm trying this. This doesn't seem to work. I give up. I'm trying this. It doesn't seem to work. Where can we make adjustments, right? Now, the goal for the learner is a little bit different, both very dynamic, right? But the goal for the learner is this, is to feel confident and capable, right? I feel like I could do hard things. And look, I did that hard thing. I can do that. I am doing that, right? Next is to engage in self-reflection. This is hard. What did I notice? I noticed I was starting to lose my temper. I noticed, wow, this space is really disorganized. I could do something different, right? And then another goal for the learner is to be able to practice self-correction. Ooh, that came out really harsh. I noticed it. And now how can I correct that? What can I do differently? How can I do repair if repair is necessary? Right? So the goal for the learner to practice self-correction once they do some self-reflection, right, is important, right? I can self-correct and I don't need my boss right here or my supervisor or my leader coming and telling me to do the thing, right? That's my goal as a learner, to continue the self what's the word, motivation, to continue to grow my own self, right? I am capable and I'm responsible for that, not anybody else. Okay, so practice self-correction and make some generalizations of new skills and strategies. Oh, I learned this about this particular part. I wonder if that would work here too. Sure enough. Or maybe it needs some adjusting or editing, right? And then the next goal for the learner is to feel connected to a purpose. I'm doing all this work. I'm busy. I'm tired at the end of the day. Does it matter? What difference does it make? Can I resonate? Do I resonate with the purpose of the work that I do? Am I still excited about the vision and the greater, the mission of the organization that I'm working for? And that part can be tricky when we're in the day-to-day, in the mud puddle of the day-to-day worky work, and we realize, wait, what are we doing this for? Oh yeah, that's why. So this leads me to another something I want to share with you, and you may be aware of this as well, the idea of growth mindset versus fixed mindset. So this is a place where, as leaders, it can be really tricky to role model this, right? Because we have deadlines, we have responsibilities, we have others, sometimes self-imposed pressures and sometimes externally imposed pressures of our own work and our own job day to day, right? Consider this. When we can come at that work with a growth mindset, we're able to give ourselves a little grace. We're able to understand, okay, I can learn anything I want to learn. When I'm frustrated, I can persevere. I really want to challenge myself and not just kind of settle and keep going with not much effort, right? I can try really hard, right? And are other people noticing that I'm trying hard? Yeah. If I succeed, it feels really good. I'm inspired. I know that I can do it again. My effort and my attitude determine everything. Okay, so that's growth mindset. Fixed mindset is a little different. So that looks like this. I'm either good at it or I don't. I know how to do that or I don't know how to do that, right? When I'm frustrated or when things get really hard, I drop it and just say, I give up, right? The challenge is not something that I'm looking for. When I fail, all is ruined. It's me. I'm the problem. I need other people to tell me I'm smart because I haven't developed the internal voice that tells me I'm getting smarter. But that's another longer conversation that we can have another time, right? How to develop that internal voice that says you can do it. You're strong, you're successful, right? That internal affirmation so that you don't grow dependent on external affirmation in order for it to be true, right? Okay. Another quality from fixed mindset is the ability, the feeling threatened when other people are succeeding, right? And again, my abilities determine everything. Either I can do it and everything's great and I'm awesome, or I can't do it. This is terrible. It doesn't matter. And inside, I'm really saying, yeah, I can't do that. Okay, so consider this idea. And then the next week or two, notice what types of thoughts do you have? Are they coming from a place of growth mindset where you believe that you can grow and that you can do hard things and you can learn anything that you want to learn? Or are you coming from a place of fixed mindset? I can't do this, therefore I'm never going to be able to do it, right? I challenge is I just don't want to do it. Now here's something to remember. To give ourselves some grace. And we could say, I can learn anything if I want to. And right now, I must rest. I will learn that eventually. And right now, I must rest. Right. So there's a balance that comes along with this as well, especially if you're in an organization or a program with there's a lot of many different things coming at you, right? It's easy to go into fixed mindset as a protective mode, right? So when all those things are coming at you, what about boundaries so that you can maintain a growth mindset, right? Something to think about. Okay, and here's a little reminder. Remember this, role model what you want to see. So think about what are your actions and how do your actions inspire others to do the same or to come alongside us and offer their strengths and what's important to them in a complementary way. Okay, so now we're getting to the 3 C's of coaching, right? And I've alluded to them already, but here we go. We're going to talk more specifically about them right now. Okay, so the first one is connect. Remember that emo bank account we talked about? Yes. The connection that we make by asking questions like what's on your mind, what's top of mind, what's giving you your biggest struggle, what is your greatest joy, those kinds of questions of connection, they create the first C of the 3 C's, right, of coaching, right? So what's on your mind? What's working? What's the most difficult? What is your biggest struggle, right? And then offer follow-up questions that prompt some reflection, right? What did you figure out about what it is that you talked about last week? Or how did that turn out? You were going to try such and such. How did it go? I'm so curious. Tell me more, right? Remember to give an opportunity for quiet reflection, right? Oftentimes in that connection, as we're moving to the second C of communication, inserting moments of quiet gives the other person a chance to, one, process information, consider what it is that they want to say, or consider what it was that happened, consider what do I think about it, and then now I'm going to tell you that. Now, all of us work with all different kinds of people with different skill sets and processing speeds, right? So remember to give a beat or 2 or 5 to the people that you work alongside to give them some opportunity to process what it is that we ask or that we're curious about, to consider, what did happen? How did that work? What do I think about that? Do I have any ideas, right? So when you're in a coaching conversation, allow those moments of that pause to happen, right? And there's a difference between this kind of pause where there's almost um, a pressure to come on, what, right? Or and the pause that's like this, that's an interested, engaged, like I can't wait to hear. I'm so curious, right? It's so subtle and different, but it makes such a difference to the person who is given the time and respect to reflect before they speak, right? Okay, so that's connection. I could talk so long about that. So let's talk about the second C, which is communication, right? In a coaching relationship, consider this. The phrases I notice and I wonder are fantastic in the way that it inspires self-reflection, right? Self-observation, self-evaluation, right? So you could share what it is that you notice. I noticed that that seemed really hard, or I noticed that it seemed like you were struggling at the beginning and it took a little bit. And I also noticed that when it finally clicked, I noticed your face light up, or I noticed the tension in the room drop, right? So I noticed followed by truth, what you saw, what you, without words like, all the evaluative words, right? But the describing words are what we're going for. I noticed you did this, they did this. This is what I noticed, right? Followed by, I wonder what would happen if you did such and I wonder what would happen. I wonder what you were thinking. I wonder what was going through your mind. I wonder what was going through their mind. Right. So the I wonder is you coming from a place of curiosity, really wanting to know more about the process, more about what was behind what it was that you noticed, right? Okay, so the next C is collaborate. So the collaboration can be really fun and it can be tedious as well. But the collaboration is where, again, the questions from a confident coach is one that asks, what's the plan? What do you think? What are your ideas? Hmm. And then, we can think about the SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. I think we all know about those. Is that a helpful construct? When you're collaborating and you decide on this is the plan, this is what we're going to do, can you put it into a sentence or two so that you know and they know what specifically is the plan? What's the goal? Can we measure it to see, oh, did that work? Did it not work? Okay, that didn't work. We're going to try something a little different. So remember, SMART goals aren't like set in cement, right? You could start a goal and check in a week or two or three and decide, maybe that wasn't as attainable. Let's shift and adjust, right? So that kind of flexibility in the collaboration where you're inviting that self-reflection and that self-evaluation that might lead to revisions of goals is um, is helpful to building a collaborative coaching relationship. All right. Now I would love, love, love to share a tool with you that I've been using for decades, right? I wish I made it up, but I didn't. It comes from the work of Quint Studer, and it's a tool called rounding. Um, this is it's super simple, and once you get into a habit of it or make it part of a weekly check-in or a regular check-in that you have with people that you lead, um, it it's just so helpful. Okay, so here's how it goes. Rounding is a conversation, a guided conversation that has pretty specific questions in it, right? And what you can do is take a look at the answers to the questions in rounding over time and notice, are there patterns? I'm rounding with Abby, I'm rounding with Millie, I'm rounding with Craig, and they all say the same thing: that's not going well, or they're all saying the same thing that is going well. Interesting. That's information for a leader, right? So the first big question in rounding goes like this: what's going well? So what's going well it's important to begin the rounding conversation with this question, because it sets a tone of, okay, we're going to look at what's going well. I know you came into my office, or I know we're having this rounding because you really think something is going down the tubes. But first, we're going to get to that. But first, what's going well, right? You're setting the tone, and you're remembering and noticing, okay, not all is broken. There are some things that are going well. And then don't mess with those. If it's going well, right? Carry on. Okay, next question in rounding goes like this: do you have everything that you need to do your best work? Right? It could be something simple like, we need a sharper paper cutter, or my computer is glitching, or I need a car to make all these visits, right? It could be something small, or it could be something big, and lots of things in between. But find out, do you have what you need to do your best work? Need more training. Need more money. Need more time. What is it that they need to do their best work? That can start a really rich and information-packed conversation, right? Next, ideas for improvement. Is there a place or an area where you think we could do better, right? What are you hearing from the people that we serve outside of our team, right? Are you getting feedback of ways that we could do something better or differently, right? Ideas for improvement. Now, the next question is there anything I could do to better support your work, right? That takes a lot of courage, because you are becoming very vulnerable at this point, right? To find out what does support look like? And is there a way that I could better support your work, right? Next question, and this is usually one to round it out. Rounding, get it? Okay, but to wrap it up with, who deserves some sort of appreciation or recognition, right? Did you notice something this week or in the last couple of weeks that we want to recognize or highlight, right? Have on your desk a stack of thank you notes that you pull out, and you begin the note right there in front of the person that you're rounding with. That shows a lot. It shows that you're actually going to do the thing. You're going to show the appreciation. I can tell you from the years and years of thank you notes that I've written, that a handwritten note mailed home is like gold, is golden to people. Because how many letters do you get at your house, right? Maybe not very many. I get lots of flyers for QFC and Freddy's and whatever. But when I get a letter or a postcard to me with something specific that one of my colleagues wanted to highlight of my work, oh my gosh, feels so good. So know that when you are finishing it from a place of gratitude, you're role modeling gratitude as well, right? Now, there are some variations on the theme of rounding that you could use, okay? So when you have people that you think, they might be looking for a job elsewhere, how do I re-recruit the people who are really doing great work, right? How do you re-recruit them? So a question to add to rounding is, and you got to be ready to hear the answer, is what keeps you here and what would lure you away? Powerful, insightful information here, y'all. When you find out, oh, this is what keeps them here, keep that going. And what would lure you away? Can we do better there, right? Okay, and another question to ask to the people that you want to feel like, oh, I just want to re-inspire. Their work is fine. They're coming to work on time. They're doing their things, and all is fine. But it's not a wow, right? So how do you re-inspire folks who tend to be like, they're doing okay? And remember, is it what they can give at that point, right? But a question to get at that, and to get at, how can I support this? What can we do the same or differently? right? To re-inspire and reignite their connection to their passion and their purpose in their work. So that question is, what would make your job more inspiring, more fulfilling, or more joy-giving, right? This could be a follow-up question to an I notice. What do you notice? And what do you wonder about? I wonder what would make your job more inspiring, more fulfilling, more joy-giving. And you're coming from a place of courage and vulnerability to hear what their feedback is. So as we're talking about rounding, here's some things to remember, right? So the first one is focus on what is working well first. Again, it sets the tone. It begins the conversation on a note of, okay, this is great. We're going to keep this going, right? What's going well? Next thing to remember is to allow mistakes to happen so that people can figure them out. So if there's a little bit of a struggle, allow that. Be near if necessary. Ask, what does support look like? And then support as you can, as necessary, right? Through that struggle is where great learning happens, right? For example, children learning how to walk across a slippery log. It's slippery, so they're going to fall down. And okay, is it dangerous? Is it hazardous? If you could say no and carry on. It might be a little scary, might be, right? But they're going to get back up on that slippery log when they fall down, right? Next, describe the situation. So ask, how did that feel? What was that like? What would you do differently? What are you working on? And again, this is a great place to ask, to add in the, what does support look like and how can I support you? Okay. The next one is believe in the power of the pregnant pause. Not necessarily the pregnant raccoon, but the pregnant pause. Right. Let's think about that a minute. Like those are those are some examples of what a pregnant pause might look like, right? Different than this, but you're engaged in you're thinking about it too, thinking alongside that other person, right? Allowing for that processing to happen, believe in the power of pregnant pause, right? In that pause lets the person that you're coaching know that the answer is within them. They got it. You believe that they got it, and you're waiting for them to come to that. Remember part 2, set goals so that you can know, okay, I'm trying something new here to address this specific goal that we're after, this thing that we want to do, and measure it so that you can determine, okay, we're doing this. Is it working? Do we keep doing the same thing if it's not working? No. Do we keep doing the same thing if it doesn't work at first? Do we keep going and see if it will eventually work? Do we need to make slight adjustments so that we can meet that goal? Those are all the nuances that come along with specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based goals. Next, do your people have what they need to do their best work, to do their jobs? Do they have the basics? Do they have what is necessary? And you don't know unless you ask. Next, in a coaching relationship, recap what you heard, right? Helpful at the end of a coaching conversation, recap, okay, so today we talked about and what are the action items? Who's going to do what? What are the next steps? What are your next steps? What are my next steps? When are we going to check in? So the recapping of what you heard, asking for clarification, being open to clarification at this point of the conversation is really helpful so that you both leave that coaching conversation knowing like, okay, what am I doing? What did we just talk about? And what are we doing going forward? Right. It's helpful. And then think about, is there anything else that from your experience is important to remember in that coaching relationship? What else do you know from your experience that you would add to this list? Okay, it's about time for us to wrap up. I wish we had another whole hour. We can go into this much more deeply. But some final thoughts as we wrap up. Um, Important is to remember of confidentiality, right? So what's said in coaching conversation stays in coaching conversation, right? So maintain confidentiality, right? Utmost of importance. Next is hold their dignity, right? And what does that look like? In that coaching conversation, you've built that emotional bank account, you've made that connection. There's a level of trust that you've developed by this time. You've put into place all of those soft skills we've talked about. Now, when there's a place of vulnerability on their part, and the person we're coaching is vulnerable and shares with us, how can we hold that vulnerability and hold their dignity? Followed by, how do we protect that? Right? When we get to that level in our relationship where there is a deep level of trust and they're sharing with us in a way that they hadn't maybe before, how can I protect that? Right? One is confidentiality, holding their dignity and protecting their dignity. Right? Final thought is to support and encourage. The way to find out what does support look like is to ask, what does support look like? It's probably going to be different for every person that you lead. It might be similar, which that's great. But in getting to know every person that you lead, every person on your team, support's going to look a little different. So when you figure out what does it look like, how do I do that, and how do I encourage? Is the note, sending a note home, is that great? Do they want a big banner at the next staff meeting? Yes, maybe no. So find out, right? Support and encourage in a way that has meaning and makes sense to the person that you're in a coaching relationship with. Okay, so remember about an hour ago when I invited you to think about your favorite boss, your favorite leader, right? What are some words that you would use to describe that person? So if you want to pause this recording now and just go to a piece of paper and write down, what are the 3 words that you would use to describe that person? So now's the time to pause if you want to do that. If you're coming back or you didn't pause at all, you pick your top 3 of the words that you would use to describe this person, right? Set an intention. I want to do more of that. I want to do more listening to my people because that was something that Mary did for me. I want to inspire a work ethic because that is what inspired me, right? So set your intention of what it is that you plan to do based on, what we've talked about today and what we've talked about, what your experience has been. So the next is your goal. So right now, think about what is one thing that you plan to do in the coming weeks. One little nugget that you got from our time here today. What do you plan to do? So you can pause this and write that down if you'd like. And I would love to hear your biggest takeaway. So feel free to reach out and let me know, what was your biggest takeaway? What resonated with you the most? What made sense? What was a way homer? And a way homer is like, I got to think about that on the way home. So I don't know about that, Amy. I would love to hear that. So here are ways to get to connect with me if you need or want any additional ideas or connections to the resources and the research that went behind putting this class together for you guys today. So here's how to connect with me. The QR code will take you to my contacts, and you can add that as you wish. You can find me on Instagram at Amy Williams Academy, Facebook Amy Williams Academy. My email is amywilliamsacademy@gmail.com, and my website, you guessed it, amywilliamsacademy.com. Thank you so much for being here. I hope that you were able to take a nugget or two or five into your coaching relationships going forward. So I wish you well, and thank you so much for coming.